joining us today for another episode of What's Your Why Wednesday. Today, I am joined by Kendall Lanier. He is the National Strategic Account Executive with Factual Data. First off, Kendall, thank you so much for joining us today. All right, Kendall.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's our pleasure. All right, so Kendall, we all have that story of how we made our way into the mortgage industry. And the majority of us came in by accident. But we stay in our industry because it's tied to our personal and professional why. So Kendall, we would all love to hear now, what is your why?
Well, thank you, Laura. My why is tied. It's a both professional and personal. They're both intertwined. My personal why began when I was 9 years old in a cotton field in Arkansas. And when I say cotton field, I don't mean it was a visit or a field trip. It was because I was chopping cotton. And I clearly remember and heading out to the cotton fields, we all rode in the back of a truck. Now, keep in mind, this is the mid 80s.
Wow. Yeah, I'm picturing, like 1940s in my head, which of course you don't look like that, but that's what I'm picturing in my head.
Mid 80s.
80s.
And it's still
wow.
Mid 80s. And they had a board stretched from one side of the truck to the other for seats. So if you can imagine, 15 or 20 people, 3 rows of seats, 4 rows of seats, 15 or 20 people on the back of a cotton truck. They call them field trucks. On this particular morning, it was raining, and I'm getting off the truck. It was rainy and wet, and I remember it like it was yesterday. I got off the truck, and at 9 years old, I'm thinking there has to be something better than this. And in my limited thinking, I thought making it was getting a job at the local Kool-Aid factory, where they literally made Kool-Aid, was my idea of making it at the time. So 9-year-old Kendall is saying, well, I'm gonna, have to do better than this. There's more to life than this. I'm gonna get a job making whatever amount an hour. And so I was an overachiever, of course, even then. So fast forward to when I was 18, I did get that job at the Kool-Aid factory, and I thought the same thing. Like there has to be more to it than this. And my personal why was making a better life for myself. I can remember a time that we had to turn our water back on because we didn't have the means to make the payment or to pay the bill. And so in not wanting to be that way and knowing that there was more out there, that was one of my personal why, because I had no idea that the possibilities that were out there until I started in the mortgage industry. And so growing up thinking,
How did you come in, Kendall? What was your story of starting?
I started in 1999 at Citibank. It was a home equity department. And funny thing, I started there. You said we came by accident. I was supposed to start in another position, but that position, for whatever reason, they didn't end up offering. The recruiter offered me a job working in checking and savings accounts. And of course, I excelled there and moved over to their home equity department because it was a raise, so to speak. And at the time, I was just looking for any way to pay the bills. And that was the means that I had to pay the bills. And that's how my career started in the mortgage industry.
Wow, that is incredible. And what a story, Kendall. I mean, I'm sure we could spend days going over some of the insights that you would have to share. But, for you at that moment, at 9 years old, just to say, there has to be more. There has to be something else, because like you said in that limiting, perception, right? Because it's not even a limiting belief. You didn't know anything else. At 9 years old, we only know the bubble that we live in, right? We really
Yes.
don't have any concept of anything outside of that. And anything you watched on television, that wasn't reality, right? That was a made up world. So you had no concept as to how is this world going to be different? What can I do to make this world different? But you did it. Every single time that you got to one level, you said, there has to be more. There has to be something else. There has to be this opportunity. So I'm curious, did you grow up in a family that kind of said, go for it? Or did you grow up in a family where it was like, well, this is just the way it is?
You know, Laura, that's a really good question. And I grew up, it was the latter. I grew up in a family that said this is just the way
Yeah.
that it is. And again, not I'm a firm believer that just like wealth begets wealth, I think that poverty begets poverty, meaning that we just didn't know,
Yeah.
that there was more. And it took that one person, in this case, that 9-year-old kid that, thought it has to be more than this. There has to be more to it. Like I'm not, I'm not living to play with my GI Joes. I wanted all the new toys, you know, so, all the new shoes and everything that came along with it. But to answer your question, there was all that we knew. It
Yeah.
was all that I knew, and it took that one person to think outside the box, so to speak, and say that there's more to it than this.
Well, that's the whole thing about the blessing we have with being in the mortgage industry, because we know that when we can get that one kid, that one young person, that one veteran, that one whatever, to show them that by owning a home, you can change generations to come, generations that you may
Yes,
never see, right? You may be off this
yes,
earth, and generations that will be born behind, but it all starts with that one person that becomes a homeowner, and it changes the whole ripple of you can be a homeowner. It is for us, not just for them, not just for those other people that have that opportunity. It's for us. So that's the glory of us, of what we do every day. And that's kind of what this podcast is about. It's about all of us are here for a reason. We didn't, even if we came into this industry accidentally, we stay because we realize the impact that we have on the rest of the world. And that leads me to my second question that I want you to jump into. My favorite part of doing this is hearing those stories where each one of us, we know we affect other people's lives with the work that we do. But we have those few stories that really tear at our heart, that we remember no matter how many years ago it happened. So, Kendall, can you share with us one of those stories where you realized the impact that you have?
yes, actually, earlier when in my career, as a loan officer, there was a young couple in their mid-20s that I met at a first-time homebuyer seminar. Now, they weren't there because it was their goal or their dream of home ownership, which ultimately it was, and we'll get back there in a minute. Their in-laws made them go. So their in-laws and their parents, relatives, they knew the importance of home ownership. And the young lady and husband, approached me after the seminar and said, "Well, it's something that we wanna do, but, we just don't have the credit. We just don't, we're not able to do it." And it's something that they wanted so bad. The wi I can the wife had tears in her eyes,
Oh,
said, "It's something that I've always dreamed of, but I never really thought was possible." And so we took a look at their credit, and it turns out it wasn't as bad as they thought it was. And I gave them suggestions and guidance on things that they can do to better prepare themselves for their dream of home ownership. And lo and behold, 7 months later, we actually had to close at the hospital that the
oh,
wife worked at. And so we closed on their first home, and I still have the letter from them
mm,
that they wrote on, like, stapled or pinned to my wall, with the caption, "This is why you do this." And so just helping them achieve the goal of home ownership, And, when they didn't even think that it was possible, but it took, me believing in them and me knowing that it was possible in order to guide them to their dream of home ownership. And so, you mentioned generations affecting generations to come. Generational wealth, we know that in the real estate world, that's one of the ways that you build that generational wealth. And so that's why my I say my personal why. It's one of the professional whys of why I do this. For that homeowner that just didn't think it was possible, we made it possible.
It's so moving to me. It really is. And that's, like I said, that's the whole reason why I do this. Because number one, I want to show our mortgage industry off of how amazing, we are, because I do believe that. And number two, I want to remind our industry that this is why we do it. And we know cycles come and cycles go, right? We know sometimes everything is easy and sometimes it's a little more difficult. But at the end of the day, we're in it because of the lives that we positively affect. And every day that we're able to educate and able to support and able to guide our families to be able to fulfill their dreams, whether it's doing a cash out refi, whether it's renovating that home, whether it's purchasing that home, whether it's purchasing an investment property or a second home. I mean, it's life changing. It absolutely is life changing for them and for us, for both parties. It absolutely is. All right. Love it. All right. So Kendall, we know how you started. We know the impact that you're making, not just made, but making at this moment. Tell me a little bit about the future. Tell me about, what do you want your legacy to be as it's tied to our industry? What do you want to leave behind?
That's a really good question, Laura. Um, my legacy, I want to be able to say that I impacted the industry in a way that brought homeowners and people that didn't know that something is possible, and just letting them know that it is possible. So whether it's credit related and communicating and helping others understand the significance of credit and how important that is at an early age, or if it's connecting that first time home buyer to their dream. And so I want to be able to say that I was able to help someone build generational wealth through home ownership and help usher in that next generation of home buyers, whether it's be, understanding their credit and their credit score, or just something as simple as, hey, you can do it, and believing in them and watching them grow and progress.
That is so important. It's funny, just this morning, I was in my car and on the radio, they asked a question to the audience. And the question was, what do you wish that you learned in school when you were in high school? What was something you wish you learned? Do you know, out of all the people calling in, the number one answers were credit and money. Those were the two things that over and over people were saying, I wish someone would have told me what I needed to do to have great credit. And I wish someone would have told me how to budget and how to prepare and how to take care of my money so that I could be successful. Think about that, Kendall. That's what we have the ability to do. That's our legacy, right? Of positively affecting. So thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for sharing your why with us. It's so special and so personal, and we truly appreciate it. And we wish you all the best always.
All right. Thank you so much, Laura. Thanks for having me.